a quarterback that just signed a restructured extension to remain the trigger man of a team that has a new general manager, a new head coach, but a roster that is ready to rock. Ladies and gentlemen, if he dies, he dies. Michigan State legend, Kirk Cousins.
Yeah! I don't know if I ever got to congratulate you. Thank you for that T-shirt you made that made me look like Ivan Drago. I thought that was tremendous, and my offensive lineman thought it was even better.
Well, we raised a bunch of money, I think, for the foundation as well with that shirt. I mean, thanks for letting us be a part of it, dude.
I love it. It was a win-win.
Speaking of win-win, you get restructure. You're there for at least 2 more years. By the way, your business is fucking awesome. The way you do business, I want to let you know I have utmost respect for it. I think every former player does, everybody does, nothing but respect. Don't want to dive into that. But with a new GM, new head coach, was there ever a thought, especially with how much movement's happening with quarterbacks and other positions, did you think you were going to end up elsewhere? Or did you know, was there ever a conversation about you potentially drifting in? Because I had you as a Colt for like 3 days and I was pumped.
Yeah.
I was so pumped about it. I'm like, yeah, he's coming to Indianapolis. Was that ever something that crossed your mind with the nature of the way the NFL is right now?
You know, yeah, good point about how much quarterback movement there's been, not only this year, but it seems like the last 2 or 3 off seasons has been more than normal. People are really putting a priority on the quarterback position, and if they don't feel they have one, they're going out of their way to get one. But no, it never really got to a place of, you know, will we leave? I think it was more of just how are we going to stay? You know, what's that going to look like? But the plan was always to stay, I think, on both sides. And you know, I played in Washington. I really wanted to be a one-team quarterback for my whole career. And going to Minnesota, I'd really like to just be a 2-team quarterback. Now, I'm not really trying to be a 3-team quarterback. So you get the 3-team, 4-team quarterback status. Now you're the journeyman. And I'd rather, you know, just be a 2-team quarterback. But going back to the business side of the league, you know, AJ and I actually have had the same agent in Mike McCartney. And so really, it's really not me being a businessman. It's really been Mike's, you know, handling me. And I know AJ lived that long before I have, and we've both got great representation.
Well, before AJ's question, I've seen his palatial estate.
Oh, my God.
Oh, Mike McCartney has done AJ Hawk good. Oh, I couldn't even imagine you, but don't sell yourself short, man. I saw the behind-the-scenes footage of when the Jets offered and when Minnesota offered. Then Will Compton came in here and was like, hey, me and Kirk have had a lot of conversations. You got a big business brain yourself. I understand your representation has done well, but you have to also be in there driving. So I have the utmost respect for you, sir. Go ahead, AJ.
Kirk, what about your new head coach, Kevin O'Connell? How much did you know about him before he got there, and how much interaction have you had with him?
So he coached me for a year as my quarterback coach in Washington in 2017. Really enjoyed my year with him then. And, you know, the interaction, you know, since then had been very minimal. You know, we played him in 19, my second year here in Minnesota, and then played him again this past year when he was with LA. So, you know, after the game, dap him up, say hello, but that was about it. And so I'm excited to, you know, have him be our head coach, and I've already been able to connect with him a little bit and get a sense of where he wants, you know, things to go. And so we're in those early conversations of learning a new system and kind of figuring out, you know, what this team's going to look like up ahead.
I saw you and Adam Thielen talk, I think, on his podcast, ETS. I think I want to make sure I get the name right. On ETS, I think is his gym, and it's a podcast. And Thielen, obviously, a freak show athlete. But there was a moment on a sideline where you explained the situation where Thielen told you live during the game, like, hey, instead of this out being at 9 yards or whatever, it's actually going to be at 13 or 15 because of the way the guy's playing. And then the cameras caught you guys on the sideline, and the way you explained it is you were telling him, hey, I need you to get there quicker than. If that's what you're going to do, you need to be able to do it. And people, I think, on the internet were like, oh, no, Kirk and Adam are getting into it. And the way you described it is the good thing about having a teammate like Thielen is his emotional intelligence is high enough that you can have those type of moments and move on. I think for you, other than that you like that, I think you're kind of an enigma to a lot of people. Like, oh, there's like kind of a nerdy guy. Listening to you explain that to Adam Thielen and understand that that's a real thing, do you have to like kind of pick and choose which teammates and how you handle for everybody? Is it like situations or situational, or are you always that fiery of a guy and you just got to hope that your teammates understand it?
Yeah, you know, I think there's always been an intensity there, but the longer I play and the more I'm around different people and even away from football in my off seasons, the more I just place a premium on self-awareness and emotional intelligence and just kind of understanding how you fit and how you should fit in a team. And that's just so important and such a big part of playing quarterback, such a big part of playing the NFL. So it certainly shows up, as you relate to teammates, relate to receivers, try to help other guys, try to serve them, try to show them, how you want things done while also trying to help them. And the balance of I'm going to demand from you and I'm also going to try to help you. And all those things are such a big part of playing the position.
Do you feel like the outside world doesn't give you enough credit or respect, or does that not bother you at all? Yeah, you have to hear some of it. You have to.
I don't live in a box where I don't hear anything, but certainly winning is kind of the deal. I mean, you could be a pretty bad quarterback, and if your team wins, you're the man. And people who know can kind of see through that, and they watch the tape, and they're like, I don't think they're winning because of the quarterback, but good for him, that people are in his corner. And I think the opposite can be true too. When you're the quarterback, it doesn't really matter what you do or how you play. If your team's not going to the playoffs, winning the division, playing in the Super Bowl, there's something wrong with you. And so you're always kind of working through that of, we got to win. We got to find ways to win. I got to play better, and you don't really expect people to be in your corner unless you're winning and winning consistently.
We're watching these pro days happen right now with these college kids coming out that are draft eligible, and we watch these things. Can you tell anything from a quarterback throwing on air at a pro day? Like, can you tell if that's going to translate to the NFL?
I think it's better than nothing. I mean, I would go, if I was an evaluator, I would go watch as many, quarterback pro days in person as realistic, just to be able to see how the ball leaves his hand. I think in person it's different than on tape, and so I want to see how the ball comes out of somebody's hand. But boy, it's a big difference. I mean, you guys played, but it's a big difference, throwing a football on air with no pass rush and nobody covering than it is playing real football with 22 people on the field with a pass rush coming at you. So it can sometimes, a false sense of confidence or false sense of security that, hey, this guy looks really good in shorts and a T-shirt. You have to be able to see past that. But it's truly, the ball leaving a guy's hand. I think that's where pro days can be really valuable.
Hey, whenever you get drafted, same draft class as RG3, and they gave up, I think, the next 15 years of the franchise to get RG3. So you're kind of coming into a spot where all right, this is a business. I don't have a chance. I'm going to be a backup here. But you were, highly talked about coming out of Michigan State. Like, hey, this Kirk Cousins guy is a guy. He's a guy. At what moment did you know you were going to be able to play in the NFL? Because you weren't given a lot of opportunities, I assume, early in practice or really in just life in the NFL because of the RG3 trade that happened before him even getting there. At what moment did you know you were going to be a guy in the NFL? Is there something that maybe these college or these scouts can ask like a player to figure out if somebody's going to be a bust, if they're going to be able to play in the NFL? Did you have a moment or anything that kind of clicked for you?
That's a great question. Funny thing, when I was in college, we had 100 guys on the team at Michigan State and 85 on scholarship. And as long as you didn't do something really stupid like break the law, you were going to be on the team. And I had no concept when I got drafted. I just assumed I had no concept that when I showed up for OTAs, there were 90 guys and it was going to go down to 53. And I'm doing the math. And I remember saying to a veteran player, I said, I didn't realize that it's like not a lock that I'm on the team. Like I just assumed fourth round pick, I'm going to be on the team. And my agent was talking like I'm going to be on the team. But like I got to go out to practice and like play better than the other options in the room. And this guy goes, what round were you? And I said, I was a fourth round pick. And he said, you got 1 year.
Yeah.
He said, you're basically going to be politically gifted 1 year. And you're okay for now. But, yeah, by next year, you better be good or you're going to be gone. And so I kind of learned right away, hey, man, I got to get this together. But I'd probably say it wasn't until my fourth year that it really clicked. I played in my third year and played pretty poorly and got benched. And so then I was like, maybe I'm not cut out to do this. Maybe I'm a backup at best. Maybe I'm, should be selling insurance. And it was year 4 when it started to click, and I thought, all right, I may have some staying power.
What was it? Was it just the game slowed down? The defenses started. Did you understand how to be a better leader? What was it?
It's a great question. I think it's one I'm still trying to answer. Why did it suddenly click? Because as I was playing, I was getting frustrated in years 2 and 3 because I felt like I was getting better. I felt like I had ability, and yet it just wasn't showing. There were just a lot of interceptions, a lot of just unfortunate things happening, close losses. And it was really year 4 when it just kind of the tables turned, and suddenly those close losses were close wins, and those 50-50 balls were going our way instead of their way. And I don't know. Maybe it was just that experience and being able to know the difference. But it really took a while. And then year 4 was when it started. And for the most part, I haven't really looked back.
People have talked about now how you have an offensive-minded head coach, and that changes the entire dynamic of the day. Like that changes the way the game is or the day is going to be set up. Does that change anything for you? And what is your leadership style, you think? Are you like a coach in the room everywhere you are? And is that what Kevin O'Connell's expecting, I assume? Because you need your quarterback to be a guy, and you have become a full guy. You look the part, you act the part, you talk the part, you play the part. Not everybody has that. I just want to let you know. Not everybody has that. You do, though. Is that what Kevin O'Connell's expecting? And how do you see it going now with an offensive-minded head coach?
I'll tell you, I lead a lot differently now in my 8th year as a starter than I did in my first year as a starter. I mean, when you don't have skin on the wall, you gotta kind of defer to the Pierre Garçons and the Deshaun Jacksons that, hey, you guys have played 10 years, I haven't. It's hard for me to just kind of come in here and act like I have all the answers. That goes back again to the self-awareness a little bit. But you better believe going into year 8 as a starter that, there's a little more authority there, a little more of a skin on the wall where you say, hey, I've been here before. I've done this. This is what we're doing. This is what we're not doing. And I think that helps the whole team, the whole offense, when they feel like, hey, this quarterback has been around the block and this isn't his first rodeo.
You have to have that. Me and AJ talk about this. That's what I think a lot of these teams should be trying to figure out whenever they're talking to these guys throwing on air. It's like, who has the mentality that they can take over $1 billion organization? Like, that is what you need. I got a chance to watch Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck, his first couple of years, so nice to everybody, just so nice to everybody. But there was transactions being made that were definitely affecting him, and I know he didn't like it. And it's like, hey, you have to figure out a way to say, nah, we ain't, listen, we are doing this way as opposed to this way. That's the difference between NFL and college ball and high school ball. And I think the world got to see it whenever you did your, you like that? Mm-hmm. You like that? It's like, oh, there's a little fire out of this guy. I absolutely love it. Go ahead, Ty.
Kirk, a common narrative now is that these receivers who are coming in are just unbelievable kind of from the get-go. And obviously you had Justin Jefferson. I think he was a first-team All-Pro his rookie year. But have you noticed as you're like during your time in the league, are guys kind of ready to go when they come right in? And how quickly does it take for you to kind of get the rapport with some guy where you actually trust him and like you're going to be on the same page when he's running routes?
I will answer your question, but that was the first look I got at the guy on your right with the mullet. I just want to make sure I can't not address that. First question, is that a mullet? I'm not sure. There's not as much business in the front. It's just kind of slicked back.
Yeah.
But if it is a mullet, can you talk to me? It looks like the mullet's coming back in the high school age kids. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, the mullet's coming back. I mean, it doesn't look like, there's a lot of business in the front, but there is. I mean, it's pretty long, as you can tell. But, yeah, it's been a pretty long journey to get here. The mullet is all the way back, Kirk. I think you should probably go with it, maybe.
I grew one during I think it was during COVID, late COVID. I grew it going into the 2020 season. And I said, the mullet's really cool when you're like throwing touchdown passes and winning. But like at the very first press conference after a loss, the mullet's suddenly not cool.
Oh, that's smart. That's smart. Setting yourself up for future potential failures there. Hey, you think you look cool now? I threw a couple picks there. We lost. It was cool mullet. Cool mullet, though. That's the internet, too. The internet would do that immediately. Hey, go. Had a baby. Go.
I'm into the mullet.
Freaking Cousins. Let's go, dude. That's a big day.
To answer your question, you make a good point. Receivers, it's a little easier to just plug and play. There's still a lot of learning that takes place. But, if you're good and you can beat man coverage, you know how to run a go route, you can help a team. Quarterback, there's a few more moving parts. And but even that, there's still a lot of busts at the receiver position early, high draft picks. I mean, Justin Jefferson was the 5th guy taken the year we got him. 4 receivers went ahead of him. So there's still, some complexities with evaluating that position, and we're lucky that he fell to us.
I saw Peyton in the offseason. He had to get reps in with his guys because it was all the reps. The amount of reps is just insane. Hey, we're going to run this same route 1,000 times today, and then we're going to do it again tomorrow, and then we're going to do it again the next day. And he was thrown to a spot every single time he threw, and it was like a timing thing. It was a thing of beauty. You're similar. You're a similar style throw. How do you get those reps in with young receivers? Like you and Justin Jefferson, it seemed like from day one we're on the same page. Is it just a connection with some people and you don't with others, or is it just something you have to adapt to?
I think it's that he's just pretty good at football. I remember he hadn't played a lot. He was getting reps with the twos. He was playing in the slot in training camp. We didn't start him the first 2 weeks of the year. and we go and play Houston the 4th week of the year, and he runs a slant and go. And with really no background experience, I just instinctively threw him a back shoulder ball, and he just instinctively adjusts to it and makes an unbelievable catch. And among other plays leading up to that, you're like, this guy's going to be pretty good if he's doing that without a lot of time on task together. But you're right. There is a level of kind of OCD in how you prepare and wanting to rep stuff over and over and over again and feeling like, you're checking and rechecking everything so that you don't leave any stone unturned.
How good are Thielen and Jefferson? Like, what sets those two guys apart? And they're both on your team. You obviously get the ball to them a lot. Like, what do those guys do that others don't?
I'm a big believer in the receiver position, and when you build a team or an offense, having two guys. So a lot of talk about Justin, but I really think you need two. And so in my career, whether it was Pierre and Deshaun in Washington, or whether it was Diggsy and Adam when I got to Minnesota, or now Justin and Adam, having two is really what frees up the quarterback, it frees up the coordinator, it frees up the receivers to feel like, okay, I'm not going to get too much double coverage because they've got to worry about somebody else. And I think that's when the offense can really take off, is at any moment you've got two dudes that can win versus man coverage and make something happen. And so Adam is a huge compliment to Justin, and Justin's a huge compliment to Adam. And I'm grateful to get to play with both of them. I know that.
Is that the change the math discussion that happens? And how early in the game do you know who they're trying to get rid of?
Yeah, and it's a little bit of you're always kind of trying to get in the defensive coordinator's head, and you never really feel like you do, because it's like, all right, they chose to do that, but it didn't work. Are they going to come back to it? Or, hey, they did that. I didn't think that was going to be the game plan, but it worked. So now are they going to go back to that? Some coordinators are, I never want to show you the same look, so I'm going to give you that look, and even if it worked, I'm not going to do it again because I'm thinking that you're expecting it. And then other coordinators are, whatever we do, we're going to do it the whole game and, dare you to figure it out. So you try to get a feel as the game goes on, and then in the back of your mind, you're always ready for cover zero. You're like, at any moment, if this guy zeroes me, I better be ready. So there's a lot of thoughts going on, the chess match between the quarterback and the D coordinator, and trying not to get fooled.
We talked to Aaron on Tuesdays, and there was this one Tuesday where he said that a defense gave him a look that he remembered from his second year playing. He was standing back there, and he looked, and he was like, oh, they ran this against me in like 2006 or something like that. And he tried to recall what, before the plays get snapped, what that look was about to do. And I guess he did figure. I think they threw a touchdown on the play. It's probably why we asked about it.
Probably did.
Yeah, I would assume he did. But is that the type of guy you are before snap too? Are you trying to break down I know there's different styles of things, and there's obviously Peyton has his way, Tom has his way, Aaron has his way. Before the play, is that all happening in your head? And then at what point do you have to shut that off and just fucking go with it? Go with the decision?
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, it's you got to take pride in kind of being a mental football nerd that, every rep you've ever had, you remember, and it carries with you, and it impacts the next play and how you play and process it. But, I mean, Aaron, AJ will speak to it. Aaron's on a whole nother level with just the amount of information he can take in. And I've never been around him, but just observing from a distance, when it's the play clock, the number of timeouts, the game clock, the field position, the playbook, his ability to, just handle it all. I mean, as LaFleur was telling me at the Pro Bowl, he said, I'm calling a play to him, and he's having a conversation with the referee while he's hearing the play call, and then he goes into the huddle and calls the play. Like, he can do both at the same time. It's unbelievable. And so I think his arm is ridiculous. It's like he's throwing a tennis ball. His feet are quick. But I honestly think his most elite trait is his mind and his ability to process so much more than the rest of us. But that being said, yeah, to play quarterback at this level, at this league, at a high level, anybody, you got to have a mind that can, have a high capacity.
I think that's because there's offenses changing, obviously, in the NFL. But if you look, Stafford, Joey Burrow, I mean, that was the Super Bowl. And Patrick Mahomes moves, obviously, but he is a passer versus Tom Brady the year before. I mean, if you have a cerebral quarterback that can break down what the hell's going on and throw the ball everywhere, that's going to have a place forever. Do you think the game changing, and this is obviously not Kirk Cousins, the quarterback for the Vikings, this is Kirk Cousins, football pundit. Do you think offensive changes that you're seeing around the NFL, do you think that's going to continue, or do you think there will always be the same old school mental gymnastic freaks that can pick apart a defense is going to be successful in the end?
That's another great question, and one that I've asked myself a lot as I go through my career, because I don't want to be a dinosaur. I want to adapt. And so if I need to change my game, I'll change it. But I remember saying to Matt Cavanaugh, my quarterback coach in Washington before Kevin arrived, just saying, Matt played 14 years in the league and coached and, has been a part of multiple Super Bowls. And I said to him, you think, the quarterback position is going to change where you've got to run a 4-4 and you've got to just run around and kind of make plays off schedule. And that's the only way to play in this league someday. And he said, that's going to be good. That's a nice trait to have. But he said, I think that if you can't throw from the pocket, go through a progression, throw with accuracy, and kind of do it the old school way also, you can't play. And so he said there will always be that foundation you have to have. And then anything above that is a bonus.
Go ahead, Connor.
Yeah, Kirk, first things first. I mean, you got Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. Just grow the damn mullet back. I think you'll be all right when all is said and done.
We're going to be just fine, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Dalvin Cook, who
Zero
cares?
interceptions.
Yeah, none.
Zero. The entire season. New offense.
Exactly.
Zero
It'll be a
interceptions.
perfect offense. Speaking of the new offense, with a first-year head coach, first-year GM, do they ask you for any input, going into free agency and going into the draft, what you think the team, might need to take the next step and maybe overtake the Packers?
I think they're open to input. I don't even know that I waited to ask for if they wanted input. I just kind of shared it, and I kind of preface it with, you can do what you want with this, but here's my take on, where we're at, not only on the roster, but as an organization, here's where we're at. And then, honestly, once I say my piece and share it, then it's, hey, you guys are, in big roles and you're paid to do that job and you got to go do it. So whatever you do, you do. And but I just want them to have information that they can then make decisions with however they want to do it.
I like the thought of Kwesi sitting there. He just got the job, just got the Vikings GM job. Man, what a day. Fucking GM. All right, here we go. Sits down at night, doing whatever. And all of a sudden he gets an unknown number with a text. Hey, what's up, man? Welcome to the Vikings. This is Kirk. Here are some thoughts. But you're setting a precedent too, I think, though. You're also setting a precedent, I think, right?
Yeah, honestly, what you just described is eerily similar to what happened. It was nice to meet you. We need to win. Here's my thoughts on how to do that. It's been great, though. They're just classy guys, hardworking, smart, and now, like I said, hey, we checked the first box in terms of getting the right people in here, you and Kevin and all that. But I said the second box to check is to go win, and that's on me as much as on anyone. And that we don't get to figure that out till the fall, but we're taking steps on our way there right now.
Kirk, your legacy is going to be, forever. After you retire, they're going to talk about whether you win or not. I like the fact that you're taking ownership over that, honestly. And I think a lot of guys around the league are starting to do that. Like, hey, listen. The way things are being talked about, social media, conversations, narratives, the way it's more than ever. And it's only going to grow, by the way, as more of these platforms and more money goes. The fact that you understand, hey, the way I'm going to be talked about forever is how we do this thing, Kwesi. That ownership is what I think everybody wants and needs out of their quarterback. And not just their quarterback, all their pillar positions. I love hearing. I'm sure Vikings fans are pumped to hear you right now. Go ahead, Tone. Last question for you, Kirk. Appreciate you.
Kirk, I'm not sure if you heard or not. When Russ Wilson went to the Denver Broncos, he was asked about their division, and he said he was pumped to play in the best division, blah, 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 whatever. Be honest with us. Were you hoping that Aaron Rodgers retired?
I always want the neighborhood to be as friendly as possible. And as long as Aaron Rodgers lives at the end of the cul-de-sac, the neighborhood's going to be challenging. And, we always say, hey, to be the best, you got to beat the best kind of a thing. So you don't want to back into anything. But I'd be lying to you if I thought that the division would be just as difficult if Aaron Rodgers were somewhere else. That's just out of respect for his game and the way he's played for, 17 years. So, it is what it is. You gotta go toe to toe with that team. That's been a great team the last several years, well coached, and you got to find a way to get it done. And that's why you work so hard and why you're on the phone with the GM and the head coach saying, hey, here's what I think we need to do, because it's a matter of inches in the difference between playing meaningful football in January and February and sitting at home watching it on TV.
Cliff Kingsbury told us right here, he came in during the combine. And he said, whenever we told him that, it's rumors that Russell Wilson's going to be leaving, and he said, I hope God. I hope to God he's out of the NFC West, So what you're saying here is not, a unique one. It's a real one. And it's respect for the great players around. And Kirk, what's the offseason look like? What are you doing right now? You golf? How's the golf game? Working out a little bit? Mental test? Russell Wilson watched every single play that the Broncos had last year in a 2-day period. Are you studying the film right now? What does all offseason look like for Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. I got a film set up. I do my body work, but you better believe I'm going to hit the golf course too and spend some family time. I'm actually spending most of my off season here in Orlando. We're basically around Disney World a lot, so we get over there. I'm a little bit of a Disney guy, so get over there and have fun with that too. So that's kind of my change of pace. But I also got to say, before I get off, seeing AJ reminded me, one of the greatest regrets of my entire life, and certainly of my football career, was early in my career, my agency called me and said, hey, you got an opportunity to go sit and look at, in LA, watch a filming of The Office, the actual show. And they said, for proof that you can do it, here's a picture of AJ Hawk. He went and watched the film The Office, got to meet the characters, all that stuff. Literally, I saw a picture of AJ in The Office. And
that face?
I almost did it. I had a few things going on. I turned it down. And to this day, it pains me to say that. But I just had to bring it up with AJ. That the fact that he did that, man, I'm so jealous, and I was so stupid not to do it too. But I just wanted to hear what that experience was like.
Oh, it was awesome. Thanks to Julie for setting that up. It was right after the Super Bowl, and I had my hand in a full cast. I just had surgery, had my wrist rebuilt, and had a 2-month-old baby. And we took her in there and spent 6 hours. We ate lunch with all the characters. Yeah, it was crazy, Kirk. If you're obviously you're a fan. It was
how are we
awesome.
just not here?
What the hell?
Kirk, you just started some
Will Ferrell
shit.
was
How did this even not get brought up until Kirk Cousins comes on the show?
How was I going to bring it up?
I mean, we've talked about Baumgartner 1,000 times.
Yeah.
10,000 times, Michael. I mean, literally, we've talked about this.
Yeah.
No less than
At least 1,000 times.
I'm not even exaggerating. 1,000. It's never brought. Kirk, this is
real
bullshit.
roll.
What is
He's
the
been
deal?
on a real roll lately.
That's unbelievable, Kirk. I wish you would have went so we could have talked to you about it. I know you would have at least brought it up if we're like, "Hey, The Office, pretty good show." You would have said, I actually watched one of those. Yeah. You would have done that, Kirk, because you're a good human. You know what I mean? AJ,
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Friends don't not tell friends about visiting the Office cast.
Amen.
Thank you.
You're right, Kirk. Thank you, Kirk.
you,
Gee, grow the mullet back, Kirk. Ladies and gentlemen, quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, Kirk Cousins. Thank you, Kirk.